Welcome to Gators and Golf live here on YouTube. Tony, all those different sounds. I thought I had downloaded the original sound that we normally start off with. I don't know what the heck that 2021 remix was, but how the hell are you this morning, sir?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. LeBron James is gone, so life can't get any better for me personally.
Yeah, I saw that waking up this morning. So a lot of happy people out there, and yeah, it's funny. It's always good when the king gets knocked off. So we'll free up some basketball for the rest of us.
Yeah, I think you're going to see some NBA numbers go up because I think a lot of people were tired. Not just because it was politics. I think a lot of people like to see new blood in there, and LeBron's just not a likable person across the board for a lot of reasons for people. So this is funny. His post game interview they're showing right now. He's got like some. It's like a denim shirt that he's got like unbuttoned like it's 1974, and he's got all his gold chains right there. So anyways, the big news yesterday in Jacksonville before we get into College World Series talk was that they're going to get a standalone facility, football facility. It's being reported as a $441 million facility. What say you? Are you excited about the news?
I'm excited for. I think the team's definitely going to get the standalone facility. I think that's going to happen. I think that should have probably happened a while ago. And unfortunately, when you're 1-15 every year, it's tough to sell on that. But now, with a new coach, new quarterback, all that kind of stuff, the future at least seems bright. So it's a good time to strike on that while the iron's hot. I think Meyer coming from the college game. Knowing how important that standalone facility is and knowing how many teams in the NFL have one. And to be honest, I thought they were going to put it somewhere away from the stadium, maybe somewhere off JTB or 9B or somewhere like that instead of right next to it. But
West Side.
Well, yeah, not there. But what they should do, though, in another topic, though, the fairgrounds is kind of stuck in the middle of all that. They should have moved the fairgrounds out to the west side about 20 years ago. There's no reason for it to be where it is, but they'll definitely get that standalone facility. You watch I'd never seen the movie Draft Day. I don't know if you've seen it with
Kevin Costner. I was actually one of the last ones to see it. I didn't know that you hadn't seen it. Yeah, it looked and sounded stupid. Then I watched it. It was an incredible movie.
Yeah, and so it's funny. I think it was maybe the night of the draft it was on, and we were watching that while flipping back and forth. But the Browns have theirs, and all these other teams have it, and they really just use their stadium for game day and Saturday walkthroughs. But that should have happened years ago. It just took the right person to get in charge of it, and apparently, per the media, Meyer even has that in his contract. That's part of him taking the job, was that they were going to get a standalone facility. The other stuff, we'll see what happens with that, with the hotel and the just the peripheral stuff. We'll see if that actually happens. But I guess what it allows for too is having that standalone facility. You can do all the stadium renovations that are probably coming within the next 4 years or so, and not interfere with the players' day-to-day activities. And if you go to a game at the Jaguar Stadium, you can actually walk by the weight room. There's some windows, and you can see a little bit of it. And even a couple of years ago, walking by, you're thinking, man, this is an NFL team. This is where they train. And you see some of the other stuff on TV and Hard Knocks and all those different shows, and everybody else has something a lot better than what Jacksonville has. So it's good for them to get it. It's just, will city council pass all the peripheral stuff? Because I do think they'll get that standalone facility.
You tend to have you tend to have the temperature of the city is what I'm trying to get out. I was curious about that when I saw you're the first person I thought of. I was like, are there stumbling blocks that they're not going to be able to get this passed, or with Urban Meyer coming in and the Tim Tebow, then of course the Golden Boy and Trevor Lawrence? Is there so much momentum? Do you think they're just going to pass it through?
The standalone facility, yes. I think They are using some city money for that. So I think that does have to eventually go to a vote through the council. I think that'll pass no problem. I think some of the other stuff with the Four Seasons Hotel and, the stuff that they were going to do with Lot J, but just move it closer to the river, I think that might face a few more obstacles. I would look for that standalone thing to get done as far as the budget and all that stuff. I'd say probably within the next like 2-3 months, because if they want that thing done by, I think they were saying fall of 2020 or summer of 2023, if that thing's going to be as big and as extravagant as they think it's going to be, they need to get going.
Yeah, I mean, I know that sounds like a long way away for people.
It's not. Yeah,
it's not. I mean, it's like they got to start hammering this morning.
I didn't see the entire presentation, but I caught the gist of it. And one of the things too, we all know how expensive construction costs have been in the last year or so, and they're only going to go up in the next few years. The city has a set amount that they're responsible for on that standalone facility, and anything above and beyond that, the Jaguars will take care of. So I think that's a key cog that wasn't a part of the Lot J negotiations. So, like I said, Lot J is way on the back burner now, but they do need to get this stuff done. And whether they do the hotel or not, it's immaterial as far as like the team. But as far as getting good free agents here, there's two things: winning, and they want to be able to like the facilities and all that kind of stuff. So, I think it'll pass as far as the small stuff. We'll see what happens with the big stuff. But, sometimes it's typical city of Jacksonville. You take a step forward and then they take 2 steps back. And, I get you don't want to bend the taxpayers over all the time, but at some point you do need some kind of progress somewhere downtown. And by the stadium's as good of a place as any.
I agree. Get people caught up to date as it's College World Series Day. If you're wondering what's going on in the world of the women's scores last night, there were a couple of big time upsets. One major upset. James Madison shocks Oklahoma 4-3 in 8 innings. Alabama beats Arizona, no shock there. Oklahoma State beats Georgia 3-2. Great game, but no shock there. And then UCLA ends up winning 4-0 against Florida State, but the game was a lot closer than that indicated. Those last 3 runs were scored in the bottom of the 6th after Florida State had pulled their starter. I don't know really why they did it, but anyways, it was a hell of a game. Terrible defensive error that they're not going to call an error because it's softball, but it was a terrible defensive blunder by Florida State's second baseman that caused the first run, and then later on the floodgates open. So today, for people who are wondering about this, there are 2 games tonight, actually. Oklahoma State and James Madison at 7, Alabama, UCLA at 9:30. Those are the winners bracket. Tomorrow, you're looking at the losers bracket. If you're looking at Florida State and Georgia, Southern sports fans, Georgia, Oklahoma is at noon, and Florida State, Arizona State is at 2:30. But I know what you're chomping at the bit to talk about.
Georgia loses.
Yeah, well, that too. Screw you, Georgia, and you're 2 barbecue and us in Gainesville. By the way, I don't know where the hell Georgia's getting this from, because they played a hell of a game yesterday, and if the center fielder would have not like collided into the wall like she'd been drinking or something, she probably steals that home run, and we might be talking about Georgia in the winners bracket. But
they lost 7 straight to end the regular season and I think SEC tournament, and then got hot at regionals, and obviously won 2 last weekend. And Justin Fields' sister's been red hot at the plate, so it's kind of crazy. I didn't see any of the softball yesterday, but I did see.
By the way,
where James Madison won, which was awesome.
Do you remember the tweet that Tom Brady put out last fall that was saying basically that someone was bragging about something that he had done, and he said, "I'm not the best athlete in my family," he was referring to his niece.
Right. She had a big game yesterday, didn't she?
No, I watch her. She's terrible.
Oh.
She's okay, I guess.
Had a 50-50 shot.
But I was looking at her, and watching her, because I specifically was like, okay, this is Brady's niece. What does she got? I mean, there was one at bat where she struck out with 3 pitches, and all 3 of them were out of the strike zone. She was doing that and doing this and then doing that. I was like, this is the best athlete. Come on, Tom. I know you're trying to be nice, but
right.
Come on.
I just want to see if she can run in khaki shorts like Brady can.
She's athletic. I'll say that, but it ain't her hand-eye coordination. I can tell you that right now. I know what you're excited to talk about. It all begins in the College World Series today, and the Gators get going early. They're noon Eastern. Have you already come up with a story to get the hell out of work today?
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, we're headed down there. So, and I like the
news. Are you? Oh, you're going to be at the game.
Yeah, we're headed down after a little bit after this, but awesome. I like the noon start. The only reason they do it is afternoon thunderstorms. Almost every time Florida hosts a regional or a super regional, obviously the time of the year it's that time. So there wasn't a tournament last year, but back if Florida didn't host in 2019, we ended up going to Texas Tech. But in 2018, they finally figured out to let Florida play at noon, at least on Friday. So we're not sitting around until 9 or 10 o'clock on a Friday night waiting for the start of a baseball game. But also, just in case, if you throw your starting pitcher for a couple innings and you hit a 2.5 hour rain delay, that pitcher's probably not going back out to finish the game. So at least for a day, we can not get screwed by the weather. And I think they're starting Miami and South Alabama at like 5 or so, which is earlier than usual. These are usually 1 o'clock and 7 o'clock. So
to your point, I'm looking at the Gainesville weather right now. There's cloudy with like 8% chance of precipitation all the way until right at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. It looks like they're expecting around 50% chance of rain, which means
I'm through the years, I remember just stay, and if at McKeithen, at least here, there's covered seats. Not every seat's covered, but there's covered seats, and there's plenty of room in the concourse at McKeithen Stadium. You had 4,000 or 5,000 people crammed into something underneath the stairs basically, and it was horrible. Eventually they let you leave if the rain lightened up. You can go out to eat and come back, but this stadium is better set up to kill a rain delay. But I mean, there were years where we're just standing there for 2.5 hours, with our thumbs up our butt, just waiting for baseball to happen. So they finally realized that a few years ago. It's a good thing. It kind of stinks for work and all that stuff, but it's good. Get game 1 over with. Hopefully, USF won the AAC the other day, and actually, UCF and USF were playing for the championship. That was kind of a fun game to watch. Luckily, USF won, kind of kept me from rooting against my own school there this weekend. But they snuck in. JU snuck in. They won their conference with like a 3 and whatever record for regular season, but got hot at the end. So they'll play up at South Carolina, who's hosting as a 2 seed. But it's a good slate of games. South Carolina, Virginia is going to be a really good game today. Florida should take care of USF. Tommy Mace will throw today. And then as long as Miami wins tonight, Hunter Barco will throw tomorrow.
FSU's in trouble already. They're facing the number 20 team in the country. They got a little bit of a tough slate there, which granted FSU didn't have a great season, so you can't expect them to have a cakewalk. They're playing Southern Miss at 3 o'clock today, number 20 in the country. And then of course, Ole Miss is the actual host in the Oxford Regional against Southeast Missouri State, which evidently Southeast Missouri State has a pretty good team. I was reading
Southern Miss is very good.
Well, yeah, I know Southern Miss is very good,
yeah.
And Ole Miss is very good. They're both in the top 20, but Southeast Missouri State evidently is pretty good. They've got a 2 really good starting pitchers. So no matter how you shake it, Florida State's going to face one of them tomorrow if everything holds true. If Southern Miss knocks off FSU and Ole Miss knocks off Southeast Missouri State. So you got the Gators at noon, you got the Seminoles at 3. So my afternoon is set. Anyone who's calling me today on what I do outside of radio, you're going to get terrible service. I'm going to be jaw dropped watching. I'll have like 6 devices up watching watching the college baseball. The thing that I saw that kind of jumped out at me more than anything else is I think Tennessee got a really rough draw for they got number 20 Duke. Liberty's a good team, and Wright State's a pretty good team itself. What say you?
Yeah, no, I agree. Liberty was the favorite to win that conference. The JU and UNF are in, and I guess just got cold, and
How about
JU got
JU
hot over the weekend.
That's awesome.
Duke won their conference tournament for the first time since like 1961 or 1941, something like that.
Yeah, I think they said 60 years. I'm like, I'm surprised they even had a tournament 60 years ago.
Yeah, so that good story for Duke. It's just one of those things. Like this regional is four teams that really hasn't been there in a while. I mean, Tennessee last hosted regional like 15 years ago or something like that, and I know they went to Omaha in 2005. But yeah, that's a tough draw for Tennessee.
Been that long,
but they're at home. I mean, that place, they intimidated the crap out of our guys. I know that a month ago, and that was or 2 months ago, and that was with very limited attendance. So everybody's going. I think packed house except for the West Coast this weekend. So I think Tennessee will get out of that one, but that's a tough one. In contrast, I think when the brackets came out for us, I mean, obviously Miami's there. But I thought we got a pretty easy bracket. And if you get, we would play Texas in the Supers next weekend if we both advance. We won't host unless Texas loses. But if you look big picture going to Omaha, we're not in the side that, has Arkansas and Vanderbilt. So if we can somehow get through these next 2 weekends, I thought Florida got a really good draw for being a 14 or 13, whatever we are. I think we're 15 seed going against 2 Texas.
Right. The other big games today, by the way, at noon, you got Texas Tech playing Army, which should actually be a pretty good game.
Tech will kill them.
Tech's
good. Tech's a fun team to watch. They hit like crazy, and they play really well in Lubbock. So I think I forget. There's Dallas Baptist is another team that's fun there. But Texas Tech plays really well in Lubbock.
I will say the one thing about Army is that I was reading some of the metrics and whatnot, and evidently they've got one of the better defenses in the country. Yeah. So that can always help you. Notre Dame, Central Michigan. I don't know much about Central Michigan, but that's 1 o'clock. Texas plays at 2, Arkansas at 3, Mississippi State at 3. So you got a lot of early action. Alabama, NC State. That's an interesting one at 3 o'clock. All these games, by the way, in all likelihood, are on the ESPN Plus app if you cannot find it on your normal station. I was a little surprised that like the mothership ESPN wasn't televising these games right off the jump at noon. They're doing their typical nobody watches midday Sports Center slate thing that they do, and let's rerun Stephen A. Smith's show 17 times. So in case you missed the first time you said something racist, we can say you catch it the second or third time.
There's some good games. I've got NC State sneaking out of that regional. So you've got a game at 10 o'clock with LSU on Marineri's farewell tour. Playing up at Oregon, they're playing Gonzaga at 10 o'clock tonight. So there's, like you said, on ESPN Plus or wherever they're going to put them. I know Florida's on SEC Network. I think Vanderbilt is too. But yeah, there's going to be baseball basically from noon till 1 o'clock in the morning today. So there's a lot of good games out there. Another one that I kind of casually mentioned, but Virginia, South Carolina, up in Columbia, that'll be a good game. JU gets Old Dominion. Old Dominion's had their best season this year that they've ever had. Obviously, as a 1 seed, Justin Verlander pitched there, and they haven't been nearly as good as they are this year. JU's got a good starter for game 1, that Santana kid that I kind of rave about. But it would stink for Old Dominion. They've had this great season, and they run into Santana, who has a chance to shut them down. So we'll see. But it is a little weird. Old Dominion's not hosting. They're the 1 seed, but their baseball stadium probably mimics a lot of high schools here in Jacksonville, and which is why they're not hosting. And Carolina's got a nice one. So
yeah, that Columbia regional is it should be a lot of fun. The Virginia, South Carolina, by the way, in Columbia at noon, and then 7 hours later they play the second game. Isn't that fun? If you're going to those games, you're like, what the hell? I gotta wait 4 hours in between these games. Before we get to running out of here, what's your thoughts on Coach K and his farewell tour?
You know, it's funny. You would think we would see it coming because he's getting up there in age, but it's always a shock when these guys retire, whether it's Roy Williams, who I don't obviously care for that much, or whether it's Coach K, who I adore. So, you know, it did take me off guard. I think he is going out the right way. It would have been dumb to go out on, you know, in a COVID year where you couldn't have the Cameron Crazies one last time. And I think it'll be really cool. I think the pick to succeed him, I think was it's a good one because it's in house. He's already on staff. Played at Duke, obviously. I don't know how much the next guy after Krzyzewski, I don't know how successful he can be because it's never going to be good enough. But it's a good gap guy maybe for 2 or 3 years and see what happens. If he keeps him rolling, then he keeps his job. And if not, then, you know, maybe they go to one of the old time Duke guys like Dawkins or Amaker or even Hurley at Arizona State, although I don't know how fluffy that relationship is. But I think I think Duke's got a good plan. It's just, you know, can Duke continue to recruit itself?
They definitely have a whole crop of kids that have played for Krzyzewski that are now currently coaching.
Yeah, so, there's a ton of them.
Yeah, so there's no shortage of that. I think he was given it because he's just there. And it's like you said, they probably know. Well, first of all, I'm sure they could hire him really cheap, but also they know that whoever succeeds Coach K, there's a good chance that guy's getting fired after like year 3, right? Yeah. So you're just going to try to ride the storm, hope that that's very rare that a Jimbo Fisher goes out, wins a national title shortly after a Bobby Bowden retired. Right. It just doesn't happen. You know, normally it's it's Bill Curry, right? You're like, oh God, just go sit up in the booth. But it didn't shock me at all. And I've been a Coach K Duke supporter for years. I was disappointed in the way that he was constantly trying to get the game shut down this year. But whatever, when he started complaining about we shouldn't even be playing, that it's too dangerous, the handwriting on the wall was there for me, because all I could think of was, you are more concerned about sitting at home in your basement than you are actually doing your job. And the competitive fire must be gone. So I was actually kind of thinking that he might retire at the end of this season if he was just done. Mm-hmm. But I'm with you. I'm glad he's going to go one more year. You'll get that stain of what 2020 Duke team looks like, remembers of. Hopefully this team at least makes the tournament. He gets to basically do a farewell tour.
Yeah, and there's only, Boeheim and maybe a couple other guys. There's only a couple guys left that were coaching, you know, when we were growing up and watching college basketball. And obviously the game's changed a lot, and you've got the transfer portal now, and the NLI stuff is coming up soon. So I think some of these old guard guys are gonna step aside because A, they're getting older, but B, you know, it's a lot more to deal with now than there used to be. So we'll see what happens, but crazy story.
We're coming up on time, Tony. What's your walk-off for the day, the week, and everything else?
Man, there's so much going on this weekend. Golf's obviously an afterthought, but for me, I'll watch a little bit of the Memorial at some point. Always a good tournament to watch. Everybody's in it because it's Nicklaus's tournament. It's a totally new course. It's still the same spot, but they redid a bunch of stuff, so we'll see how it plays. But yeah, there's just so much on this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hockey's been a blast to watch so far, and I don't know who do the Hawks get next, because I've had a blast watching Trae Young these last few games.
Well, the Hawks are the 4 seed, so they're actually going to get a break. They're going to get Philadelphia, which Embiid, I don't know if he's going to play in that series. So I think the Hawks have a decent chance of actually getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think it matters, because I think whoever wins the Nets Bucks is going to the finals, but it should be a lot of fun. Trae Young pissing off New York City is my walk off for the show. I think it's funny. Like I don't have a dog in the hunt, so I'm sure if he was doing that to, like, you know, a team that I liked or whatever, or Trae Young played for a team that I hated, I'd be taking it differently. But I thought it was pretty damn fun. He Reggie Millered them basically. I mean, that'll be a rivalry for years now.
Yeah, and luckily for all of us, you know, the fans are back, so it was awesome to see a packed Madison Square Garden, and even, you know, watching the Lightning last night, Amalie Arena is back to what it is and all that stuff. It's a lot more fun when the fans can actually sit and watch and go nuts. So it's been great.
Absolutely. All right, we got to run. Bottom of the hour's coming up. Armchair Quarterbacks Live continues on YouTube Live. Catch us. Tony, we'll see you next week. Great job, and Godspeed over towards Gainesville.
All right, man. Take care.
SEC, SEC, SEC.